Okay, now the first thing I forgot to do is break the cage up. So I'm going to do that real quick on our lower third, if I can get it to work. Custom upload, yeah. So here is the break the cage. So this is funny. I have a funny story to tell you right out of the box. And so last week we talked about, I think it was last week, we talked about what they think, you know, and how that gets in our way and we don't do things because of what they think. And today we're talking about luck. And the saying, the harder I work, the luckier I get. So the they think is hysterical because in 2 weeks, I'm back in Alberta, and what's today? Today's the, what is it, 13? So a week and a half, actually. It's a week from Tuesday, I think. I'm back in Alberta to speak. Thank you, Joy. I'm back in Alberta to speak at the Alberta Power Symposium. So I'm still doing electricity, right? Because I had an executive position there as the Assistant Deputy Minister for a while, several years. And a friend of mine is the MC, and he spoke with the conference organizers, and they wanted me really badly to come and speak. Okay, so when I was up there, I did a lot of things that were very unpopular with people. I changed the market. I did change rules. I took people down a few pegs. I tried to balance it so that it was fair because there was a lot of market power being exercised, a lot of wealth transfer that was not appropriate, a lot of people arguing for status quo rules that were clearly, you know, kind of fair like this, right? And so everybody thinks it's fair as long as the table's tipped toward them, right? So I'm been asked to come back and speak, and I retired essentially in 2008, so almost 7 years ago. End of 2007, so actually 7 years ago. Anyway, so here's the funny thing. Dave, who's the guy that is also a client, but he's up there, they're doing energy, he has an energy consulting firm. So he and I did a hangout, right? We put it on YouTube. And it immediately, right away, within a day or two, a huge, long comment that was from a hater, an absolute hater, was raging about the fact that we no longer had any position in there. And he made a bunch of personal attacks on me, called me names, and said Dave was doing nothing but self-promotion, and just a furious attack, right? I don't even know the dude. And it was anonymous. So an anonymous comment ripping us about, what is this? Electricity, like watching paint dry, right? So what I have noticed since then, by being out of that for 7 years, is how insular, incestuous, and arrogant the market participants are. So here's this person putting an anonymous comment with personal attacks as the primary focus. And oh, by the way, yeah, your market stuff sucked too. And he blamed me for California's meltdown when actually I was responsible for fixing most of it. But anyway, so just twisted, totally twisted. So the guy was not very smart because even though he was anonymous, it was really, really simple to find out who he was, and he had a senior management position with a particular market participant, right? So we put a reply up to the comment addressing him as Roger Williams. His handle was Roger442, right? And his videos on his YouTube channel were about his Oldsmobile and ripping up the tires and burning them and creating great clouds of smoke. So he's a car enthusiast. Okay, cool. Well, obviously not in the capacity of a car enthusiast is he ripping us about electricity, right? It has nothing to do with it. But in his capacity as a employee of a market participant, and a senior one at that. So we addressed him very politely. Hello, Roger, Roger442, Roger Williams, Director of Asset Management and Trading at Blah Corporation, right? So we did that and put that up there and said, you know, we'll leave the salacious stuff for the attorneys and we'll address the minor substance that you had in your hangout, or excuse me, in your comment, and we went on ahead and talked about it. In a few hours, the entire comment was disappeared. His entire YouTube channel was gone. Every video vanished. The entire thing. So it was hysterical. And we put the whole comment stream, because of course we had copied everything, and we put the whole comment stream back up and said, congratulations, and a few other things. I think it may have been taken down again. He may have complained to YouTube that we put back up a comment he took down. Some computers I get on, it's still there. Some computers I get on, it's not. I don't know. My point about that is what they think. I know for sure what they think was that I would somehow be embarrassed or terrified because they were making these vicious personal attacks. And that somehow I was going to be intimidated, or that other people were going to be confused. So here's what's happened. It's gone from 100 views to 400, and that's in a little tiny market like Alberta, and the number of people interested in electricity markets in Alberta, you could count inside of a thimble. So the number of views on the video is multiplied by 4 because of that activity. So my point in the whole thing in mentioning the story was what they think is nothing to be afraid of. It is something often to capitalize on, taking a controversial stand, because in the Hangout I did rip not any market participant, but I ripped the fact that they did not implement several features of the design that I said were critical, and so they still limp and stumble along with broken markets and market power because they didn't. Anyway, I realize I'm talking esoteric drivel about commodity markets, but let's just set that aside and go back to the point of not being afraid what they think. So it turned out to be quite funny in this case, and my buddy and I had a good laugh about it, and I'm of course going to mention it from the stage at the Power Symposium in 10 days or 12 days in Alberta, in Calgary. And the other funny thing is that the organizer of the conference has now had to get, Joy tells me now it's got over 700 views. Okay, so we're now at 700, so it's doubled again since yesterday. And I don't even think there are 700 people in Alberta who know what the electricity market is. It's so arcane. So 700 plus views. The organizer of the conference has had to find a larger venue. Okay, so my hearing is that they had to get a different venue because the number of ticket sales has gone up, and the tickets are $2,600. So, hysterical outcome for this particular thing. I am so looking forward to this because, yeah, do I get a chance to have a bully pulpit from the stage? There's going to be some fireworks a week from Tuesday, I promise. So this is going to be fun, and I am really excited about it. So my point in saying that was to tell you a funny story for your Saturday morning. But the other thing is, this is an example of the Hangout. Screw what they think. Take your stand, express your voice, be out loud, do what you know you need to do, and say it, be it, do it, live it. Got it? Cool. All right, now we're going to launch into today. But before I do, I want to give anybody a chance to either laugh out loud or relax or make a comment if you have some. Anything?
Ha! I enjoyed that all over again. I'm sorry. I'm done.
That's okay. It's hysterical, man. I mean, you know, I expect. Oh, and the other thing was at the end of this hater's comment was he said, "Oh, go look at Kellen's website for a creepy and hysterical view into the mind of the person speaking." And I thought, please do. Have at it. Go take a look at all my stuff. I love it. My YouTube channel, www.youtube.com/The Execution Mentor. I now coach people to do things. Hey, what a weird thing. Anyway. Okay, end of story. So that's a pretty funny story. All right, so let's talk about today. So today we're going to say the harder I work, the luckier I get. First point is, why am I unlucky? You know people that always seem to have bad luck. You know people that you think always seem to have good luck. So do I. I'm going to talk about what is luck anyway, and I'm going to talk about how to learn to create your own luck. All right, so before I start with my rant, I want to ask if any of the three that are here, Manny, Joy, or Grizz, if you want to say something about your view of luck and our topic today, and then I'll launch into my stuff.
I feel that the more times I try, the luckier I get by sheer statistics. You know, the more I'm able to tolerate what people consider as failure, and usually they're back here, you know, wallowing, rolling in a ball. I'm trying again and again and again and getting better at what I'm doing and getting more chances and feeling luckier.
So you talked about two things, and I want to say it. One, it's actually three things. The more you try, so that's one piece, persistence. You talked about getting luckier, meaning you have developed some skill, and we're going to talk about all these things in detail. You've developed some skill and some acumen and some data about what doesn't work. And the last thing you said is, I feel luckier. And there's an element to that feeling that translates into intention, and I can tell you from my own experience, and I will with some stories in a minute, that that intention and that congruity with feeling translates into better results. So there's 3 really important points. Trying again, actually getting luckier because you do develop skill and data points about what don't work. And number 3, the way you feel about it, that intentional energy changes, and that energy projects into more successful outcomes. So really cool. Anybody else? I see George has joined us too. Anybody else have a comment about luck to start with?
I'd like to say that I think luck might be a fancy way of recognizing opportunities. Like, I feel lucky that I recognized the opportunity was there, and that's how I frame it.
Okay, cool. So luck is a fancy way of saying recognizing opportunity. So the first point is here, you know people that seem to be lucky all the time. George or Joy, if you guys have anything to say, jump in, otherwise we'll go on.
I really think there's no such thing as luck. We can call, as Manny said, practice and familiarity and or the mindset lucky. I think mindset is key. All of those are key. But unless you feel lucky, unless you open yourself up to opportunity, and specifically opportunities you haven't thought of or envisioned yet, your outcome's going to be unlucky, I would say.
Good. So George is focusing really hard on the third part, which is intention and feeling, that feeling part. So we're going to talk about all these. Joy, you started this, jump in there, so go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I guess, to build on that as well, like, just like for people who feel happy, I mean, the luckier, the harder I work, the luckier I get. Or if I feel inside lucky and happy, again, I'll be able to recognize the opportunities that come my way and grab them or not grab them, recognize them. But just that overall sense of joy and happiness, I mean, you attract a certain people, a certain type of person around you as well. The negative Nellies and the gloomy Glorias or whatever they're called, birds of a feather tend to stick together. So, feeling lucky, feeling happy, that's the type of people that I also attract as well. And then they bring things with them as well. So, the luck part, yeah, I don't really believe in that either. I make my own luck and my own happiness.
Okay, beautiful. So we've had several now say there's no such thing as luck. So I'm not going to, what I call this stuff is haphazard circumstance. There are some things that happen to us that we didn't plan for. Some of them are pleasant, or we perceive them to be pleasant, but Buddhist philosophy is that we assign meaning to any event, that any event is neutral and we assign meaning to it. So, you can decide luck or not, but there are certain things that happen to us that we didn't plan for. Now, some in the extreme will argue that every single thing that happens to you, you attract by your attitudes, in the extreme version of the law of attraction, and so forth, and the law of the harvest, which is you sow what you reap. So I'm not going to take a debate right now, take this conversation to the extreme that says every single piece of every part of every day is something you attracted. I'm going to at least stop short of that and say there is the actions of others or haphazard circumstance that sometimes was not planned for, and if you quote unquote attracted it, it's out in the esoterica a bit. So let's just leave that out there for a minute, and we'll talk about it in this way. Haphazard circumstance happens. The only thing that really matters is what you do with it. So let's go back to what Grizz's point was a bit ago. Haphazard circumstance are things that you didn't expect. That can either be an annoyance, some of it is clearly bad, like somebody ran over my foot, but it can also be an opportunity. And the way that I choose to view that haphazard circumstance, the way that I choose to interact with that depends entirely on my attitude. So if I start everything with the day that today is a gift, today is an opportunity, today is a blank page, I'm going to do something good with it, I have a plan, my experience teaches me that life is what happens when I plan to do something else, so I am certain that there'll be a few interruptions, changes, zigzags along the way, but I choose to view those as an opportunity. I choose to view those at least exploratorily, if there is such a word, and think about what might be because of those things. I can tell you from personal experience that approaching the day that way, which is why I get up and work out and meditate to start with, to put my mind in a spiritual, open, receiving place every day, so that I can look at things that happen in at least a questioning way. Live in the question, what does this mean? What could it be? What does this mean? What could it be? Instead of, this sucks, you're stupid, and that's bad. Okay, so what does it mean? What could it be? I try always, obviously I don't succeed all the time, but I try always to start there and to move myself there if I depart from there. So number one, knowing people that are lucky and knowing people that are unlucky. I'm going to tell you a little story right now, and then you guys can have a little fill with some stories too. When I am in a frustrated mode, I'm hurrying too fast, I'm closed up energetically, I'm sweating still from my workout, sorry, closed up energetically and not paying attention, I'm clumsy. I knock things over. My hand movements knock glasses over and knock cans off of things. I bump into stuff. I drop things. To me, that is a representation of the kind of energy that I'm giving off. And you know, it's silly. It doesn't matter how careful I am. A recent exact example of that is this. I wear 4 contact lenses, okay? I wear hard lenses over soft lenses because I have keratoconus and mush for corneas, and, you know, eventually I have to have cornea transplants. I can't have laser surgery and everything else, so don't need to suggest all that. But I wear soft lenses that are non-prescription for protection, and then really steep hard lenses. So my putting my contacts in and out every day is this, you know, freaking ritual, right? So on the last day when we're driving home from Alberta last Wednesday, I'm thinking I made it through the entire month, no lost lenses, no catastrophes, really cool. And so when I wash my soft lenses before I put them in, I have this very particular ritual. I'm very careful, and I do all this stuff. So we're in the hotel, washing my lenses, and I'm watching them carefully, making sure everything's perfect, making sure nothing's wrong, and they get in my eyes, nothing drops, nothing sticks to my finger, etc., 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 etc. And then when I go to put my hard lens in my right eye, the soft lens isn't there, and I'm like, what the flip happened? What? Where is this lens? I was so careful. I know. It's gone. I couldn't find it. I don't know where it went, etc., etc. But I am confident that my nature, the energy that I was giving off about being worried about that particular thing, caused me to be clumsy and do something like that. And I've seen that happen over and over and over and over and over and over again. So I know that I attract negativity when I am closed. I pay attention to that sort of thing, and it happens all the time to me. On the other hand, when my heart and mind is open, ascended, and in the state of question, what could this be, what can it mean, then I am not only not clumsy, I am adept. I am quick on the reflex. I am quick on the thought. And all kinds of really cool stuff happens to me. So I know that from personal experience. So I'll stop with that about point 1, which is we create our good luck, we create our bad luck by the energy that we put out, and by the intention and feeling that we have. So I want to open it up to either examples or comments that you guys have about that.
Kellen,
go ahead, Manny.
what I found is, and this is like a pathological example, is that when people go into a depression, what they do is, even when you give them something good, they paint negativity onto it. And they systematically like paint themselves into a corner, and they're like, life is awful. But you're like, you're undervaluing all these opportunities that you've closed yourself off to. So that's what it becomes. That learned helplessness is when you've closed yourself off to everything positive in the universe just by your way of looking at things.
Beautiful. So that's a good example. I think, Grizz, you started to talk also?
I was just going to say that labeling yourself unlucky seems to me to be an excuse to not take responsibility for what you are creating. So.
Okay, we've got a slam right there. Labeling yourself unlucky is an excuse. Thank you. Now I don't have to be the heavy with everything. Labeling yourself as unlucky is an excuse. It's an excuse for not changing your attitude, for choosing to look at things in a positive way, and creating the space of success around you, creating the space of opportunity, the space of growth, and the space of positive movement. Okay, anybody else have a comment? Peter, I see you're unmuted. Got a comment?
Thank you. Yeah, you can't blame depression on things like that. Depression is an illness. So if you're depressed, I mean, seriously.
I'm going to counter that. I'm going to counter that with depression is a system of thought processes that changes your neurochemistry, is what it is.
It is universally recognised as an illness. If you come to Australia, they've got a big help and awareness situation here called Big Blue.
The pharmaceutical industry based on it being qualified as an illness. It's sort of a circular discussion. It's a worldview thing. But okay, yeah.
Okay, all right. I'm going to stop the conversation, not because I disagree with the debate or that I think debate is a bad thing, but this is a 30-minute hangout. So the question is, Peter has raised the point that depression is an illness. It's a lack of neurochemistry, some neurotransmitters, principally serotonin.
I said what we have here in Australia is a social network to support people, nothing to do with chemicals. Okay.
Okay, I got it. And so I'm not taking a position on that. Depression is classified in the medical industry and in the world as an illness. I understand that. Robin Williams' recent suicide and so forth. The debate is going on, and Peter's talking about a very powerful and needed network for people that are suffering from depression. Some people treat it with chemistry, then he's talking about a sequence of thinking that changes your neurochemistry. Whether or not one is the absolute answer or not will remain an unresolved question on this hangout, simply because we don't have time in the next 10 minutes to solve that problem to anybody's satisfaction, okay? So people talk about battling depression, whether they're battling it as a neurotransmitter deficiency or as a sequence of thoughts that leads to a neurotransmitter deficiency, we will leave unanswered at the moment. Okay? All right. So not taking any sides, and I understand the network, and it's positive because people that are depressed, however they got there, do bad things to themselves and others. And so that's not in doubt. Many agrees. Everybody agrees. It's just the causes and the outcomes and the treatments and everything we could debate for at least 2 or 3 more hours, and we have 10 minutes. So period on that one, okay? I have actually some personal story and experience around that I'm also not going to share because we only have 10 minutes. So, all right, so let's go to point number 2. Thank you for your sharing. I love it. Point 2 is, what is luck anyway? So Grizz postulated that it was an excuse. Bad luck is an excuse for not taking responsibility. Good luck, let's just define good luck as the projection of positive energy and the expectation of a positive outcome. Okay, I'm going to take a little piece of haphazard circumstance that we know happens, and let's just set that aside for a minute. The principal source of good luck is not haphazard circumstance. And the principal source of bad luck is also not haphazard circumstance. The principal source of luck is the projection of energy that you have around your expectation of an outcome. So if your expectation of an outcome sucks and you are sure that it's going to break and not work and you project doubt and fear and lack of confidence, then like me, when I feel close, I'm clumsy, I knock things over, stuff gets in the way, I have to repeat things, you know, I create the very circumstance I expect. On the other hand, when I feel empowered and I am good and I create vision and energy, things just fall into place, stuff happens, and good stuff happens all over the place. So I'm going to postulate, and you guys can argue in a minute, that luck is primarily the projection of energy surrounding our expectation of an outcome, positive or negative. Comments?
Ooh, that's deep. I agree. There is no good luck. You are who you are, and you make your way through this world, and things happen to you. And I'll pause there and let someone else comment.
All right. Who else? Nobody.
I do. Hello.
George, go ahead.
All right, I'm back in. Dr. Rick Hansen, the author of Buddha's Brain, talks about the current leading and bleeding edge of neurophysiology and the understanding of our thought and the wiring of our brains. And he says that reality is a construct of our brains and our consciousness, and that we conjure up a familiar reality from memory that's accurate enough that we don't bump into the furniture. So on a just a very simplistic level, the world is what we make it, the world is what we create, and we're making it up as we go along, but the issue is we're generally doing it unconsciously and from a familiar picture of reality. Luck comes in when you have so much focus, so much commitment and devotion to a different outcome than the average one, that familiarity is broken or changed or shifted, and we have different outcomes. So I think there's a consensus. There's no such thing as luck. We can call outcomes lucky, but it's again how we filter reality and how we change to or choose to mold it.
So that's cool. Let's talk about that for just a second. So it is often said, I think it came from the Talmud, but Covey quoted it, that we don't see the world the way it is, we see it the way we are. And I think George was alluding to some of that, that we have this perception and we create the world in the image of our past realities and our present expectations. So if we create the world in connection with or in relation to our past realities and present expectations, future expectations, then the world certainly is as we are, not as we, I mean, we see the world not as it is, but as we are, is a very interesting construct. And it falls very much in line with the fact that luck is the energetic projection of my expectation of an outcome, good or bad. Because that energetic projection is, of course, how I am, whether it's positive or negative in my mind, and it turns into an opportunity to manifest itself into some kind of reality. Now, that doesn't mean if I think of a pile of gold, it shows up in my living room. Other things can happen so that it does. So I'm going to argue, I am going to argue, because I've seen it take place in my own life, that your projection, your energetic projection, has that much power. It's no different than the law of gravity. The energy expended in our intentions and in our expectations is powerful and a creative force. All right, so that is something. I think someone else was unmuted and had something to say. Joy, was that you? No. Okay. Let's move on to number 3. Number 3 is learn to create your own luck starting today. So this is, we've had a nice esoteric in the clouds discussion about what luck is and energetic projections and expectations, and there is no such thing as luck and everything else. So let's get back to some reality that matters to you and me after we get off this call. I don't know about you, but I'm going to create a bunch of luck for me today. I don't know about you, but I choose to live in openness and the possibility that my energetic intention will create outrageously cool stuff for me today and tomorrow and a week from Tuesday when I get to stand on the stage and do fun stuff at that conference and every other thing. So that's what I am going to do, and I'm going to do it by bypassing the argument. Well, I don't know if this really works. Well, I don't know if this is a bunch of crap. I don't know. Life's just kind of like it is, and I don't know about that. I'm going to bypass that argument, and I'm just going to set it over here. And I'm going to say, I expect that there is enough truth in that philosophy that I can make a difference in how my day goes, the luck that I have, whether it's my attunement to opportunity, recognizing opportunity, as Grizz said, whether it is the actual manifestation of my projected energy about my expectation of an outcome. But I choose to bypass the negative argument about it's not existing or not having any effect and live fully in the expectation that it's real and then create the reality associated with that expectation. So that's how I'm going to create luck today and this week. And what I would challenge you to do is examine your position against that or in that area. Do you expect the next hour or the next day to suck, or do you expect it to be good? Do you expect it to provide you opportunity and growth? And are you looking for it, like the little boy in the pony, the pile of horse poop? There's a pony in here somewhere. That is a choice. And regardless of our external circumstances, it's still a choice. Now, I'm going to make a nod back to the depression argument we had earlier. If I'm sick and I'm in bed with a 50 million degree fever, however I got the fever, it's going to be harder to do. I understand that. And I do need support, and I do need help. So I am not suggesting that simply saying, today is going to be a good day, is going to fix every problem in the world. But I am suggesting that a consistent choice to project positive intended outcomes affects my reality. And I would suggest that it will affect yours in a positive way. We've come over our time, but I'm willing to hang out for a few more minutes to open it up to comments, because I know I just did a long mono rant. Whoa! And I want to give everybody a chance to argue, agree, or dance. Go for it.
Agree.
That was short and sweet. Okay, cool. Well, who else?
No, I agree. That was beautiful. Sorry, I got here late, but thank you for inviting me into this discussion. So I look forward. Although time zones is hard for me. I'm in New Zealand at the moment, but going back to Australia
What
soon.
time is it?
But 4:32 on a Sunday morning a.m.
Holy crap! Congratulations for being even up. My hat's off.
Thank you. Kristen sends me all the invites, so thanks, Kristen, for that, and keep sending them. So yeah, thank you.
Anybody else got comments before we shut her down? You're chipmunking, Kristen. We can't understand you.
That's funny.
We see the wave, but the noise is like Alvin on steroids. Preston, you got something to say?
I do. I just wanted to say that one of my most successful people that I know always define luck when opportunity and preparedness meet.
Love it. Love it. Anybody else? Thank you for coming. I'll stop the broadcast. I challenge all of you to take the opportunity to break the cage. Break the Cage is my personal 90-day reinvention program. I call it perfect for radical change candidates. If you are prepared to make radical change in your life and you're watching this later, breakthecagenow.com is your opportunity. You can either procrastinate and get the same results you've been getting, your call, or you can choose to break the cage now. www.breakthecagenow.com. End of commercial. End of broadcast.